inside the all-new House of Public Discourse Radio.com. The house is an area in social media where individuals can come together to discuss societal issues, and from that discussion influence political action. Welcome to the house,
where our house is your house.
Poverty is not a crime. It's an essay that I wrote back. You may not be able to see this, but the date I wrote this was December 28th, 2014, and the title of the essay was "Poverty is Not a Crime." And there were a lot of drinking going on in the barrio, and there was a it hit me square in the face, guys, that poverty is not a crime, and the aspect of being in poverty was becoming more and more a crime because of the ordinances, which are laws, and different, criteria and dynamics that people don't like seeing homeless, poverty-stricken people around. They don't like it. It sullies up the neighborhood. So without further ado, I'd like to read this for you on this Christmas Eve, because I don't know, not for everyone, but it has been the case for me personally. Christmas time has not always been a time of joy. It is now. I have a wonderful wife and a fantastic great grandson, and her family has embraced me as one of their own. And I mean, I've never been so happy in my life personally. But I'm trying to be in my advocacy a person that's not hypocritical and forgets where they come from. And I have spent many Christmases. Well, I can put it to you if it makes any sense. I haven't been to a Christmas gathering of the Hills since I can't even remember the daggone date. But there is a very significant problem in America that very few media outlets are paying attention to. The criminalization of poverty is becoming an issue in America, and it was an issue in 2018, and it's even more an issue here in the present. No one seems to care. What's disheartening is that this trend is coinciding with a growing number of Americans falling into poverty. Now, this was 2014, and that was the case. Do you think the situation's gotten any better since 2014? I would say it is not. You can't look at the stock market as a barometer of how well people are doing, in my point of view. The increasing inequality in America has been well documented, and the results are more and more people showing up on our city streets. While none of us were looking, state and federal agencies have been waging an undeclared war against the poor and the homeless in this country. And I don't know just from my research, guys. When I started the House of Public Discourse, I never put a shining stack on top of my head that says, here's a choir boy. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I've made a lot of bad decisions, and I have been homeless a time or two. Let me tell you, I was a resident of the Dewdrop Inn in Houston, Texas, the famous $9 a night bunkhouse where you worked out of the co-op, and then you lived in a little place they called the Dewdrop, which I was grateful for. But I just would like to tell you that, that I know this stuff from practical experience, not just something I read in a book. The increasing inequality in America has been well documented. And while none of us were looking, state and federal agencies have been waging this undeclared war. And just the basic human biological needs like sitting, sleeping, or lying down have been labeled as loitering, thus causing persons to be fined or arrested. I remember this very well. I did some specifics on it. And this, now, granted, folks, let's keep in mind, this is 2014. And I posed the question, has things gotten any better? And in my point of view, the answer is no, hell no. Not for the everyday people who make this world go round. Over 1/3 of the large American cities have imposed citywide bans on public homeless camps. A 60% increase since 2011. These camps, often in a metropolitan city like Houston, like Motown Get Down, where I'm at now, are under a bridge, beneath the overpass, on the freeway, or under railroad trestles. And if you've ever been coming off I-45 going down Houston, over by Cross Timbers, I used to have several photos of me where, I'm not trying to, this is not virtue signaling here from Johnny. I mean, I literally, on a time or two, gave a couple of bucks to some homeless people that I didn't have the money myself to give to. But at least I had a car and a little place over in the barrio. This man was sleeping up under the bridge. In a growing number of American cities, and at time, the survey and the study I was researching was from Tampa, Florida. A person deemed homeless gets thrown in jail. Now, I have a source here, and I really hope this doesn't mess up my live stream. But I have a source here. I try to source all our essays and everything we do here in the House Forum. I try to do that on a religious basis. We talked about that last night on the live stream. We try to do our due diligence here. There have been some bans on asking for food in public and giving out food to homeless in public as well. Who can forget that? It was viral on Facebook. The older gentleman with the gray hair who got arrested, I want to say in California, for trying to feed the homeless there. These stories are not new. When I wrote this in 2014, it was shocking to me. Here in 2020, it doesn't surprise me one bit. The love for many has grown cold. We live in critical times, hard to deal with. I'm not trying to be Johnny Depressing here tonight, but for me personally, I've always been, I had, a bad reputation, a spoiled, rotten, rich kid, all I can't name them all. And I just feel very passionate for people who are demonized and considered the out group when we're living in such an authoritarian society these days, where everybody's ready, we had 70 million people, over 70 million people, that voted for a man who thought windmills caused cancer. Put that in perspective. Let's put all of this into perspective. What are the implications of this? Could you envision a police officer walking through a city park? And I want you to position this in your minds. Try to take a second, take a bong hit, take you a sip of wine, kind of get into a yoga sort of state, and think about this in your mind. Especially if you live in a big city like New York or Chicago or Detroit or Houston. Could you envision a police officer walking through a city park or any other common public area, seeing a white male dressed in a suit and tie, taking a lunch nap, he had a few martinis too many last night at the club on a park bench, arresting him? No, hell no. My answer is no, and there may be some isolated cases of yes, but I say the no's outweigh the yays. No words to explain. No, those people are seen as hardworking, just taking their midday power nap before they have to go back to work. The people who aren't permitted this same luxury are the homeless, for the fear of being arrested. A homeless person must wander around all day long, continuously on the move. Why? Because in many cities now, you can be incarcerated for just simply being homeless. And to take a nap on a park bench with your bags would draw the eye of the authorities. I know that to be the case, not only a 100%, but 100,000%. Even charity is being banned in some cities. A 2009 study from the National Law Center of Homelessness and Poverty which found that the number of ordinances against the publicly poor had been rising since 2006, along with ticketing and arrests for more neutral infractions like jaywalking, littering, or carrying an open container of alcohol. Let me tell you, this is a story. Open container of alcohol. You guys want to see that? Open container of alcohol. I had a video here, and it's subsequently been removed from Facebook. But open container of alcohol. Let me give you a brief story. I went on a hitchhiking tour back in 1995, and I was living on a yacht in Key West, Florida, working in the Walgreens liquor store. I had thumbed there and came up from nothing there. And after a while, the tropics were great. I loved Key West, Florida, and would love to go back and visit, but it's just not a very cool place to live. And I needed to get out of there, so I decided I want to check California out. So I went to Santa Monica, the pier that my boy Forrest Gump ran out onto, the Santa Monica pier. Well, there happened to be a little bar on that pier there that needed some help, wanted for waitresses and stuff. And, I had some experience in that, and I was pretty good with people. I knew how to, hump some burgers. So I went in there and got me a job working on the pier. And one day I was just got there, and I didn't really have a place to live at the time, to be honest with you. So I got me a 6-pack. I don't drink beer anymore, but back then I did. I got me a 6-pack, and I went and sat down on the Santa Monica, just off from Venice Beach. I smoked a joint with that dude with the guitar that rode around. It just recently died. I forget his name, and I need my butt key. That was one of the highlights of my life. I smoked a doobie with that guy, man. He was great. He could roller skate and play the guitar at the same time. But I was sitting on the beach, and I cracked open that first one and drank it down. Next thing you know, I had another one, and I drank it down. And next thing I knew, I turned around, and lo and behold, there's a Santa Monica police, not on a motorcycle, not on foot, but on a freaking horse, man. He was up on a horse. I thought John Wayne was looking down on me. And I got a ticket for open container of alcohol. And the cop was really cool. He could have thrown me in jail, but he let me slide. Maybe because my skin was white, I got a break there. The House of Public Discourse has found through our research one glaring motivation behind all of this legislation by our nation's municipalities regarding the homeless. To legislate the homeless problem out of sight and mind, and to punish people who do not comply. Taking away essential services to assist the homeless will force these needy Americans to go somewhere else with their problems. We are not self-braggadocio here in the House of Public Discourse. We take credit when we think credit is due. If that is not spot on, I don't know what is. We're seeing more and more people showing up on our city streets, not the situation getting better. One of the many trains of thought is that providing services for homeless enables them to remain homeless. That's a crock of shit. And it only takes a white, privileged, don't know what the hell they're talking about person to even believe such bullshit as that. Factoring in a political dynamic that caters to the racist and anti-tax crowd that believes these people should be left to fend for themselves, we easily see that the idea is not only narrow-minded and wrong, it's freaking un-American, and all these holier-than-thous walking around with the Bible in their hands, it's not even close to being Christianity. Not even close. People are homeless for a variety of reasons. Many areas in this country lack affordable housing, jobs, mental and physical health care, and a working wage that is not indicative of the cost of living in a particular area. We have articles and we have sourcing on all of this. If you're one of those, I want to see your research on that. Well, you can see it right here. It's at www.houseofpublicdiscourse.blogspot.com. It was the very first time the House of Public Discourse has ever been used in a 4-word combination, ever. And we're proud of that. Increasing the need for food assistance across the U.S. If you think we needed an increase in 2014, what do you think the situation is right now, folks? The 2013 Hunger and Homeless Survey conducted by the United States Conference of Mayors. Bullet point number 1. 83%, 19 of 25 of cities surveyed in 2014 reported an increase in the number of emergency food requests from the previous year. Bullet point number 2. 91% reported an increase in persons seeking food assistance for the first time. I'll guarantee you that number has quadrupled here in our present. 80% reported an increase in frequency of visits to food pantries and emergency kitchens each month. Not every once in a while, y'all. Let me go down here, get me something, I'll be all right in the next couple weeks. I mean, people are going every month. They're depending on it. No matter these findings, and despite the growing need for food assistance, cities have chosen to target the homeless for prohibiting their access to food sharing programs. At a time, I'm not college educated. Everything I've ever learned, I taught myself. I taught myself. I blew my opportunity, in college. I had to go to college where I didn't want to go because my father wanted me to go there, and I didn't want to be there, and I screwed up. I didn't go to class. I screwed myself. But irregardless of that, at a time, it don't take a brain surgeon to understand that things are not getting better. And I hope I'm not sounding crazy. I hope you're feeling my passion here. Things are not getting better, and I'm an optimistic person. You might say, well, Johnny, I can't tell it. I can't tell it by the actions of the fruit that have been born on the everyday person. With a growing increase in need, 78% of cities had to reduce the number of times a person could visit the food pantry each month. Okay, y'all coming too much, man. Y'all coming down here too much to get some food. Y'all gonna have to chill on that. 66% had to turn people away due to lack of resources. Sorry, folks. We would feed you if we could, but we just do not have the resources right now. As if homelessness was not hard enough on an individual within itself, turning it into a criminal offense is, in a word, horrific. For instance, in Bakersfield, California, it is now against the law to panhandle for money. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I don't go to the store a single time where I don't get asked for some money out in the parking lot while I'm putting the groceries in my car. Now, me and my wife and Sheila, we live on a fixed income, and in all my times of being homeless, my pride would just not allow me to panhandle. I just could not go up and ask a stranger for money. I was smoking at the time. Another time or two I'd go ask for a cigarette, but I ain't never asked for no money. I always was able and fortunate enough to work out of labor halls or find me some kind of hustle. But it is aggravating for someone to come up to you and ask you for money, especially in this day and time. When someone gets in your space, it scares you a little bit because you don't know what in the hell you're dealing with this day out there. So I understand there being some kind of regulation or some kind of protection for the citizenry on people just coming up and asking for money. I would like to see us do some things that would keep that situation from happening and being a problem. The law is that just one example of how communities all across America are clamping down on the plight of homelessness. In another California city, an ordinance was passed making it a crime to sleep in your car. Now, let me tell you something, folks. I've slept in my car, and I don't know about y'all, but I have slept in my car more times than once. And I have slept in my car off the freeway, going from one place to the next in a rest area, which aren't the most safest places in the world to sleep in. I put my ass at risk doing that. But if you're trying to tell me I can't sleep in my car in a public place paid by public tax dollars, you kiss my, you know what? I'm going to sleep in my damn car now. That's right. Sleeping in your car, your own car can land you in jail for 6 months. The explanation given for this ridiculous ordinance was that it ruined the quality of life of the city's elitist community. The end goal for these so-called quality of life laws is to make no safe place for the homeless to rest. These type requirements are expanding nationwide. All of these facts and figures and ordinances amount to is an all-out assault on homelessness. Unfortunately, it does not stop with these measures. The mere act of being a good Samaritan to homeless people can land your ass in jail. And it has. It pisses me off. One of the most bizarre restrictions we uncovered was in New York City. Well, I lived in New York City. I'm going to tell you something. I lived there for 2 years. It wasn't a happy time for me. I was working in the garment district of New York City. And that place is something else. It has a lot of good and it has a lot of bad. In that city, it was made illegal to donate food to a homeless shelter based on the fact that the food given would not be assessed for salt, fat, and fiber content. I'm going to say it right here on my own show. When you're hungry, you don't give a fuck. So, excuse me. So, with corporate profits soaring to record levels while income inequality falls to record low levels, it begs the following question. When did the war on poverty turn into a war on the poor? The man, I almost get emotional about it when I talk about it. One of the men that meant a lot to me as a young man was a black man. And they killed him, shot him dead, because he had a plan, and he had a charisma, and he had an attitude that sparked a changing. And now all of that he died for is under attack. It's under attack, folks. It's been under attack for hell. Who knows when? How long? How long has voting rights been attacked? Civil rights been attacked? And where is it going to start? It starts with the homeless people, the most vulnerable, the ones that are most affected for whatever reason. And they're all not just lazy poor people who don't, that they're all not a bunch of lazy people. Despite the slow but sure economic recovery from the Bush II era when he drove our country into the ditch bank, poverty in the U.S. is on the rise. Poverty in America is becoming mainstream, folks. 4 out of 5 Americans are one paycheck away from homelessness. We were talking about this last night on the program, in the Progressive Talk Zone, and I want to thank Chris and Deborah and Sean and Pam dropped by with some comments, and my dumb butt didn't see them. Well, anyway, back to this. You're rolling with Johnny in the House Public Discourse Forum tonight. We're just chilling. Happy Christmas Eve, everybody. I'm reading, if you're just joining me, I'm reading a essay I wrote on December 28th of 2014. And it was right around Christmas time about the poverty being made a crime in this country. Why do we see this downward slope after 50 years of so-called war on poverty? One of the main factors that jumps from the pages is capitalism. I wrote an article for Liberal America. I originally wrote it as all my articles in my regular blogspot.com blog. But I wrote an article, The American Dream Has Been Hijacked by the Capitalists. I can't tell you how many of my friends from high school and back home, unfriended me because of this article. Johnny, you're a socialist. You socialist, you liberal swine. We see an all-out assault on every social program to assist the poor, and a total attempt to turn back the hands of time on civil rights legislation passed back in 1964. There has been a stealing of people's pensions, a living wage that has not kept up with the growing cost of living, the outsourcing of jobs to other countries, all tenets of the Mitt Romney, Donald Trump. Mitt Romney was the man back then when I wrote this. He was their figurehead back then. But it's that whole neoliberal cartel, which is what they are, style of vulture capitalism. Unions are being attacked or have been attacked and disbanded. Even the smallest of measures to help the poor have been cut or done away with, while there is an ever-increasing trend to subsidize corporations and to sponsor, arguably, unconstitutional amendments to make them appear as a person. Also, too, folks, my voice, I'm having trouble with my voice, but I don't care. That's why I use artificial voices a lot. Since I got sick, and my voice is just not what it used to be. So I use artificial voices and try to create characters on our Progressive News Network as a way to kind of help my voice out. But I'm passionate about this issue right here. And if my voice cracks, and if I sound crackled, if I sound whatever, please forgive me. Even the smallest of measures to help poor have been cut or done away with, while there's an ever increasing trend to subsidize corporations. Come on, folks. I wrote this in 2014. You think it's gotten any better? We're subsidizing corporate. Why do you the stimulus bill that we just got? Have you seen the pork inside this? Oh my God. That's another broadcast. That is another broadcast. The bottom line is that measures that help poor people are being mitigated away, while actions to help the rich have been enhanced. And if you got a problem with that statement, if you don't think that statement is true, and I'll say it again, it's a Johnny bottom line. The bottom line is the measures that help poor people have been mitigated away, while actions to help the rich have been enhanced. That was true in 2014, and the situation hadn't gotten any better. According to 2013 census supplemental, almost 50 million in the U.S. are poor. 50 million, I'll grant you, it's higher than that now. Food stamps keep 5 million out of poverty, and without Social Security, more than half of Americans' elderly would be in poverty if it were not for democratic socialism, which were put in place by FDR and others. I don't know where we'd be. How much is the present assault on social service increasing this gap? What we have seen, Republicans every state work, and you know what? I have evolved quite a bit since 2014. It's not just the damn Republicans either. It's the fucking Democrats as well. Now, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I'm not a Democrat anymore. I'm an independent, progressive, democratic socialist. I'm proud of it. And I have seen the light when it comes to wiping the butts. They ain't wiping nobody's butt. Both of them got shit on their hands. Both of them. The Democratic Party that we're seeing today is not the Democratic Party of FDR, JFK, MLK, Robert F. K., and yes, LBJ too, whether he was sincere or not. We have seen Republicans in every state work to cut food stamps while adding benefits for the wealthy. We have seen Democrats cave on their principles in relevant matters to Republicans who just use these cuts to the poor as leverage to enact legislation for their deep-pocketed political donors. It's the old Washington's two-step, folks. It's the two-step. You know how we like music? I can put that to the beat. The reality is these social services that are kicked around like a football on Super Bowl Sunday are a lifetime for a vast amount of American citizens. Okay, so let me put a stop right here. It's real easy to sit here and bitch and moan and groan, because I'm telling you, I feel it. There's a lot of people that's got a lot to bitch and moan and groan about. But what we try to do here in the forum more than anything else, and that's why I'm so humbled by all the wonderfully smart, beautifully hearted people in our forum. We want solutions. What are the solutions? Firstly, we must address the living wage issues in America. Increasing the minimum wage to $15 would be a nice start. Secondly, we the people must not lose our rights to organize on all fronts: labor, health care, and education, just to name a few. We need to ensure and bring back guaranteed pensions for people who are longtime employees and work hard all their lives for an employer. We need to move away from a system that rewards profits over people. The free markets have freed a few and enslaved the masses. I'd like to say that again, because I don't think that's more evident in our society than it is right now. When I started writing, I made a decision I was going to try to write about the causations of the problems that everybody knows about. What's causing these problems? And I quickly found that neoliberalism, which main ideologue is that whatever's good for the free markets is good for society, is leading us the way of the Romans, is what it's doing. And I'm going to read this one more time. Excuse me. The free markets have freed a few and enslaved the masses. We need a collective society to change our priorities to those that put the common welfare of the people ahead of the common welfare of the corporations and their so-called fucking free markets. It is the position of the House of Public Discourse that the steps needed to combat this war on the poor and the services they depend on should originate at the local levels of every community in this country. We who care must step up our advocacy for a positive change to make a brighter tomorrow for all Americans. The real unspoken and often underdisclosed fact is that the majority of Americans are, in fact, themselves one paycheck away from poverty and the streets. Being poor is a condition with many variables, but the one truism this writer holds close to the heart is poverty is not a crime.